Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode.
Good morning and welcome to Northern Powerhouses Business Success Stories. So we have McClure joining us this morning from Support Solutions. So good morning, thank you ever so much for joining us. Can we just start off by asking you to introduce yourself properly, and can you tell us a little bit more about what it is that you guys do?
Okay, so I'm McClure. I am the Managing Director of Support Solutions in York, which is a home care company that was started 6 years ago. I'm also the director of Support Solutions Franchise Limited, which is because throughout the pandemic, ironically, we have actually launched and been taking on other businesses across the UK under our brand. So we've had quite some success throughout the pandemic year.
Fantastic. So tell us how has the last year been? So obviously you've been acquiring more businesses, you've had an incredibly busy time. Tell me how the last year has gone. How has the last year been for you guys?
Challenging, very much at times, and on two sides really. Running a home care company that provides over 600 hours of home care in York itself, the challenges around keeping our staff and our clients safe, making sure that we've had enough stock around PPE, being given so much guidance from everybody from every angle, and trying to make sure that we are meeting all the guidance with emails. Our inboxes have just went crazy, trying to make sure that we stay on top of that, as well as trying to grow a franchise company has been very challenging. We had to produce a 5-day training session in the middle of the pandemic, with hotels closing, not being able to provide accommodation. We really had to pull out the stops and try and work with other local businesses, and we did. We very successfully, we had everything sorted for a week's training for our new franchisees last year. And the hotel that we booked everything through decided that they weren't going to reopen. So we were allowed to use the conference facilities, but they wouldn't feed us. They wouldn't let the people stay over. And it was like panic stations. We had people coming from all over the country. So, I mean, we overcame it by actually working with the Feathers Hotel in Pocklington, who were absolutely brilliant. They have a side restaurant next to it. The Feathers Hotel is a hotel, but it's a public house that has accommodation, but they also have a restaurant which is separate to the main building. And obviously, because of the pandemic, the restaurant was closed, so they weren't open during the day. So they very kindly allowed us to use their restaurant as our conference facility. And the accommodation was all separate accommodation, so we were able to do that. But we worked very closely with them so that they got our business, and that wouldn't normally have got it. But they were so accommodating, and we had a really successful and fantastic 5 days training session.
Brilliant. So tell us, your franchise model, was this something that you guys were doing prior to the pandemic?
Yeah, we were. Yeah. We'd started, franchising a business is a very long process. And we work with a company called Essentia, who we started the process sort of last year, went down to London to the franchise shows and was talking to Paul, who owns Essentia, and deciding if it was going to be the right move for us. So we'd done all the work prior, and then we finally got where our, what they call the FIM and the marketing side, was all in place. And we sort of launched around January, February last year. And that's when your marketing starts to do that. And then as we went into March, we sold our first one. So our first one was sold at the same time as the pandemic hit. And that first franchise actually is at the other end of the country to us, and is actually in Worthing. So right down on the south coast. Wow. So yeah, it's been, and then we started to hit the Midlands. We got 3 in the Midlands, 1 in Lancashire. It's just been, so we currently have 5 on our books, which, you know, to do that in 12 months is an achievement. But at the same time, there is also the hardest part is that normally as a franchisor, you would be down there and working with them, and they've had some huge hurdles with CQC. You know, they've not got their paperwork in on time, but when they have got their paperwork in, then CQC have used the pandemic as a reason. So there is companies that are registered with CQC that have obviously set up other branches or whatever to assist with the pandemic. But at the same time, so that's had a backlog on new businesses being able to set up and to get the registration through. So there has been some challenges. So what would normally take 12 weeks has been taking 16, 17, 18 weeks for that process to happen. And, you know, people are working remotely all the time. We've all had to change the way that we work, but, you know, we normally pick the phone up to social services, CHC, social worker. It's not that they're not there to support you and to talk to. It's just that you would normally ring one central number and get whoever you want. We've been very, very reliant on emails, which is obviously a slower process. We've had to re-look at everything we do. So some of the positives for us that have come out of it is, you know, environmentally, we will be helping the planet because we are never going to go back to staff meetings all in one room. We will continue to do them through Zoom. We can successfully and support our staff through Zoom supervisions instead of bringing them into an office and sitting face to face with them. You know, we realise now we don't need to do that. So staff are travelling less, which obviously has environmental impact on fuel in the air and all the rest of it. So we have become very reliant on technology. So we hope to God nothing happens to the technology side. But it has had a positive impact. I mean, I used to hate the camera, so for me to sit here and do this is quite an achievement for me. So, but I've got so used to it now, you know, that I don't really give it another thought. You know, what's the difference with me sat at the other side of your desk doing this or sat on Zoom? So, but and I think a lot of us have learned that there is some balances that have got to be made as well. It sort of makes you rethink about your own life and, you know, how that can impact. We've had staff that whereas your normal challenges with staffing are around them either being off sick generally, you know, for whatever reason, or you're covering holidays, or you're just covering staff doing training. When suddenly you've got staff that are out, they have no control over why they've got to be off. So, you know, we have a lot of staff in our industry that are parents. So there's been a lot of children off school. So they've been trying to work and homeschool. The children went back to school. You get one in the bubble that gets tested positive. So that child isn't positive, but it affects the whole bubble. So the mum or the dad now can't come to work because, again, they've got to stay at home because, you know, the childcare facilities haven't been there all the time or at the times that are needed like they used to be. So a lot of wraparound care disappeared. So there's been huge challenges for our staff in our industry, but we've had a very positive support network around us as well. I mean, you know, we can't praise the government enough. We don't feel the government have let us down. In the home care sector, we don't feel that. York City Council have been absolutely brilliant with the support that they've provided to people like ourselves. And, you know, and if we've all, and East Riding have been the same. I mean, we work across 2. So we felt very supported by our local authorities. You know, and we've openly said that to them. You know, we've emailed them and thanked them for the support that they've given us. So yeah, we've had huge challenges.
huge challenges. But I mean, it just sounds like things have been amazing for you guys despite, you know, these in the middle of a pandemic, and, you know, for you guys anyway, having a duty of care and taking care of vulnerable populations, to suddenly have a pandemic and have everything change overnight in terms of the way that you guys work. How has it been for you as the as the leader of the business, you know, having taken on new franchisees and you're immersing them into your model, into your way of working, and then you have this whole layer of craziness to throw on top. How has it been for you?
I think because the franchises come on slower, so there is a lot of work around marketing. So the franchising company itself, as in us as the owners of that, as franchisors, the side to that is very much about making sure our brand is out there. And I have spoken to so many people that want to go into the home care business. There's been a huge influx of people that want to go self-employed. They realise that the care sector is one area that's always going to be required. The level of care and attention that's needed to the sector. We've had great publicity because it's been highlighted about health and social care over the last 12, 16 months now, of how much we are needed. And that has impacted across the board with an influx of inquiries. So I've spent hours talking to people on Zoom. Sorry.
Don't worry.
Talking to people on Zoom about developing a business. I mean, I think some of the people don't forget that we are sometimes dealing with people, and those people who are dealing with people are also people. And we've had staff that have had to step in. They've been so understanding that you've got a staff member that goes off and they've now suddenly got to isolate for 10 days. The other team members have got to come in. That puts immense pressure on. You've got managers that have had to come off doing their day job in order to go and support clients, which they've loved because it puts them back to where they started and why they went into the industry. So it has, having so many hats in one day is just become a bit of the norm for me now. But I still very much support the team in York, but also supporting those franchisees around the country. The downside is that I've just not been able to physically go see them, and that's about to happen in June. So for the first time I'll start travelling across the country, which is, for me, is going to be absolutely brilliant. But no, I think that it's connected me a lot with other people. I mean, I've another guy that I've been working with, Sam Barrington, over in Scarborough. I mean, he, throughout lockdown, they've produced a piece of software that's absolutely amazing for the home care sector, which is all linked to CQC and the Chloes and us as owners and registered managers, gathering our evidence together to give to CQC when they come and inspect. I mean, that piece of work was done through lockdown. I've got hold of it through Sam, and we are actively using it, and I love it so much that I am now assisting him to get that word out. So I'm now going to be doing interviews with home care owners to sell that software for him and just to get it promoted. So it's opened up so much for me, in a way, to say that I've been enclosed in an office at home, that actually my network's grown amazingly, and I just think it has opened doors. I don't think it's not been a negative experience for me. As everybody else, I'm human, and I've worried, and I've not really wanted to go outside, and you're testing all the time, and you just from that, I'm no different to anybody else. But I've just embraced what you've got. And I think working from home without the phones ringing all the time and somebody knocking on your office door has actually made you more productive, if I'm honest.
Definitely. Do so many people that we're speaking to say exactly the same thing, and I feel the same way. I've been working from my dining table predominantly for the last year, but there are less distractions, and it's been hard when you're homeschooling, and there are so many things going on. But I think there are so many people that are really going to embrace that moving forward. You mentioned that you guys are going to continue with Zoom meetings rather than traveling backwards and forwards to meet with one another. What other adaptations that you've made do you think you'll keep hold of?
Oh God, so there's probably loads, really. We've I think I suppose something that we've always taken for granted in our sector is infection control. It's just part and parcel of what we do. You know, you train staff in infection control. It's just, but I think what this has done is highlighted again the bigger need to be more stringent and to be more aware. And I think if nothing else, it's done that, but not just in home care. That's gone across the board. And I think that, you know, we've looked at, I suppose we've invested in, you know, we've bought more cars, ironically, for staff, to be able, so that they, you know, we can offer more work to people. That we've tried to keep people off public transport, which, you know, is a huge issue. We've got staff that drive but don't own vehicles, so, you know, we've made adaptations to allow them to use the pool car to travel to and from work. We've invested in masks. I mean, God, I never thought I'd buy masks like I do. So as much as we use the, you know, the PPE masks supplied, we've also invested heavily in giving staff there, so that, because there's an environmental impact on these masks and the amount of excessive PPE that we've been having to one store. I mean, God, our storage is immense. But the mask, I have an issue with these masks being, you know, you see them in the streets, people don't dispose of them correctly, which is worrying. So, you know, we have spent, and we want staff to be able to wash the masks and reuse them. And so we've tried to do that as well. So there's, I suppose, and then we've restricted people coming into our offices, which it goes against the grain really with what we do. We work in a very lonely field, being home care workers. And, you know, coming into an office, even if it's just once a week, twice a week, has sometimes been, you know, stops them being lone workers constantly and having human contact with people at work. But we've had to restrict that so much. But we've managed to adapt. We're lucky, we're in quite a large office space, but we have been able to adapt. I mean, I owned a salon throughout this as well. I mean, I have closed it and won't be reopening it. Nothing to do with the pandemic, it's just a coincidence. But we had throughout, whilst we were open through the pandemic, there was screens and etc. put up, and we've loads of screening in our offices now. So you feel like staff are working in little bubbles within a big office space. But it's things like that will continue to just evolve, and you know, I think at the end of it, we probably think that it's nicer to have a party for all the staff at some point when we're allowed again to all meet in one space. But I think there's a lot that we've all got to learn from an environmental point of view and from a working point of view. And I think, as I said before, it's more about getting those balances right now, you know, evaluating where we're all at in life, and, you know, working like we do hours and hours a day, but at the same time, we've all learned we very much miss, you know, going for that walk on the beach, being told you are restricted and you cannot go, and, you know, you can't travel an hour down the road and go walk your dog on the beach, or you can't, you know, you can't go an hour down that way and see your friend because they live too far out of your area that you're not supposed to be traveling. And I think it's that sort of thing that you just think, my God, you know, if we lost this long term, how we would live, we'd all live like robots, wouldn't we, in some small environment. It would be awful. But I mean, I saw my best friend for the first time since last August, this weekend just gone.
How was that?
Oh, it's just lovely. I mean, as much as we Zoom every day and talk, it's not the same.
No.
That physical, being in the same sort of space and being able to talk without thinking, oh, you know, oh God, I've got to go because I'm in a meeting, or I'm off to bed or whatever. It's just the fact that you've got that time, and I think you just appreciate and value more what you have. And I've just rabbled forever, so.
No, you haven't at all. So tell it, with everything that you guys have been through and have experienced, and the growth that you've seen, the successes that you've had over the last year, everything you've learned, if you could go back to last March with all of this knowledge you have, is there anything you might have done differently?
God. I don't think we could do anything differently throughout the 12 months because we didn't know what we were ever dealing with.
No.
If what I can say is that what the last 12 months has taught me is that to value what is effectively already in your life and to make sure that you balance the two things, and and not take for granted that these people are in your life and you try and fit them into your life when you're a very, very busy working person with many hats. And I think it is that making sure that you can get time for the nice things in life and the family time and your friends' time. So I have, as a result, supposedly dropped down to 3 days a week working. Doesn't work every week, but what it does do is make me think, actually, I don't need to work. I have managed to do this and I can do this. And I'll just change the way that I need to do. And if I want to spend time with that friend on a Friday, I will spend time with that friend on a Friday, because it's taught me that, one, we could have all lost our lives because of this virus. And secondly, you just learn to value what you've got. And work isn't, as much as we are successful and continue to be, it's not the be all and end all of life. Is it?
Absolutely. Your personal goals. So finally, to wrap us up then, what does the future hold for you guys? What exciting things are going on that you can tell us about?
I think for us, we're about to open another office in Harrogate. So Support Solutions will hit Harrogate from the 1st of June. And that's, as much as we will be operating that as a franchise, we actually own that. So it's just an extension of York at this stage. But we're opening that office. We have potentially 2 more that are going through the process of opening their own franchises across the country. I'm interviewing all the time potential franchisees. So I think the next 12 months for us is just about growth and continue to grow. And what I've become really is a bit more of a mentor for the industry. And I hope that through a lot of the interviews like this that I've done and talking to other people, that actually I've got a lot of knowledge and experience, and just continue to share that and be more of a mentor to other people, and not just in the home care industry. It's, a business is a business at the end of the day, and I've opened businesses and closed businesses, and I've experienced that, and it's and that's challenging on its own sometimes. But now I think for us it's about just giving more opportunity to people and to just keep growing, really, but also to keep banging that drum about how important care is. And it's not, care is not seen as a second grade job. It's actually a very important job, and one that should be recognised, and to continue sort of banging the drum like UK Home Care Association do, and many other organisations that are lobbying the government about making sure that we get the recognition for the home care workers, any care worker. Home care is my business, so I refer to that. But I'm very aware that there's a lot of staff out there, a lot of staff out there that gave a lot up in the pandemic. I mean, I had one member of staff myself that actually slept in the caravan in the garden because her husband was so at risk.
Oh my goodness.
Because of his condition, that she still wanted to support her client who she worked with. She worked one-to-one, and I was just blown away at the sacrifice she made to be able to continue to do a job, but also protect her husband. And I think there's a lot of people out there that have that haven't been recognised as much as we've tried to, that have given up such a lot. I mean, I got nominated, I haven't talked about this, but I got nominated through the Care Awards as well. So I've been through that.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know the outcome, but we should have had the outcome. But in March, I think it was, February, March. But it's been delayed, and I think it's now July. I'm not 100% sure. but there is a dinner for that. But yeah, I mean that, and I actually, as a result of doing that, became a judge for the Care Awards as well on another part of the country. And the stories I heard from some of the staff in care homes, extra care units, what they've done, how they've really supported the clients in those environments that, you know, couldn't see family and friends. Some of the work that went on behind the scenes that you'll just never know is just absolutely amazing. And as much as we all bang the drum for the NHS staff, and God, would I not have wanted to be a nurse in a ward dealing with COVID patients, but at the same time, I think there's a whole community out there that have absolutely done a sterling job, and have not yet had the full recognition, I don't think, for what they've done to keep this world going, or the UK going, throughout the last 12 or 14, and we're still doing it. You know, we are still facing those challenges on a daily basis. We've had children go back to school, and the jabs, you know, we've all been injected. We got injected the first time. We're all told to go back 12 weeks later. But some of us reacted really badly to the first one. Staff all going back, so staff are ill again. As it's, you know, those sort of stuff. One thing we did learn about, we would have staggered the injections if we'd have known. But you don't know, but you just deal with it, don't you? You just get on with it. What choice do we have?
This is true. This is true. Catherine, thank you so much for speaking with us, and
very well.
The best of luck with the awards. Please let us know how you get on. The very best of luck. I'm rooting for you. But thank you so much for sharing your story and your experiences and the things that you've learned over the course of the last year. And you know, your team are clearly an absolute, you know, credit to you, and you know what you guys have achieved over the last year is amazing. It really is.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below, and subscribe for all our upcoming videos, or click for the next video here.